A very warm welcome to Capital Sports 3.0. I am your co-host, Alan Moore. This evening, we're going to continue our theme of a team, of a game, of a superb, well, the greatest movie ever made. We know which one it is. It's the only one I've ever spoken about as the greatest movie ever made. And we have a really super special guest. This is an interview that I wanted to take for quite some time. And I'm very lucky that Andrew Flint and hopefully AK will be here to join us in the second half of the show. But I think anyone who grew up in the 1980s in Ireland or the UK will know this person, will kind of be confused between admiration and hate. Not love, but admiration and hate. And it's a huge question that has been burning in my soul since 1981, actually 1983, to be honest with you, to ask this man. And I will ask it, but not in the first half of the show. But I am absolutely honored and delighted to introduce to Capital Sports a living legend of American soccer, because that's what it is. I say American football, people think he's like one of those guys who wear pads and smashes into other guys with pads. No, this is a legend. This is a Hall of Famer. This is a man who played alongside some of the greatest soccer players of all time, and who won 15 caps for the USA as well, his adopted nation. I'm delighted to welcome into Capital Sports, Mr. Werner Roth. Werner, it's really sunny where you are. It's nice where you are. Any chance you'll send some of that my way?
I'm sorry, any chance of what?
Sending some of that sunshine my way.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to be able to do that.
We're going to start off with one from the start of the start. Of course, most people in Europe, I mean, it took me a long time to understand that you weren't German, especially from your name, Werner Roth, and so on. But you were born in the ex-Yugoslavia. You're born in Bosnia.
Yes.
Now, you moved to the USA at age 8. Do you, because of course Yugoslavia, well, all the republics in Yugoslavia, they were hotbeds of sport. Did you start playing football only in the States, or when you were a little guy in Bosnia, did you play football as well?
I played football since I was a little kid, since I can recall. I mean, we left Yugoslavia when I was 5. And on our way to the U.S., we spent 2 years in Germany. So I played football every day in Germany as well. You know, street soccer, like all kids do in Europe and South America and everywhere except the U.S. So I've been playing all my life. You know, I grew up in the culture of football. And even in New York, where I moved into basically very ethnic community. I continued playing football. We had, football clubs like they do in Europe. So from the age of 5, all the way through my adulthood, I played football.
Now, of course, at that time, football or soccer in the USA wasn't that well organized, but it was organized along ethnic lines, because you played for the German Hungarians. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Because I know, for example, a lot of Irish guys who went across, they played with teams, some what we call not touring teams or whatever. They were playing the kind of touring leagues. What was it like then, before the advent of the NASL, the North American Soccer League? What was the soccer landscape like in the USA?
Well, we had football clubs in every ethnic community because, the immigrants brought football with them from wherever they came. So I played since the age of 7, I believe, 7 or 8, with the German Hungarian Sport Club. It was a community club that was organized by, the ethnic community. Basically, we had a soccer field, Metropolitan Oval, that was accessible day and night. We had a clubhouse, German Hungarian Sport Club, with a bar, of course, and a restaurant and dressing rooms. So I played all year round, basically, seasonally from, September to April. And then during the summer, I played in the streets like I always had. So it was quite well organized. It was called the German American League at the time, although it had a lot of other ethnic participants. Very well organized. The games were sparsely attended. A couple of hundred, I guess, people would come to the games. But I played from the age of 7 through the boys' leagues, or through the boys' years, juveniles. And at 17, I signed a pro contract with my club, with the German Hungarians. And we actually, that year, we toured Germany for 4 weeks. So I thought it was pretty good quality football. And, they were playing it all over the United States. Every ethnic community, every major city had an ethnic sports league.
I mean, it's the same in the countries like Canada as well. I mean, in Montreal, you had Montreal Italia, you had Montreal Irish. In Australia, they had to make a concerted effort to break that down because you had the Hellas, the Greeks, you had the Croatians, you had the Serbs, you had the Italians. So they broke away. In that with the German league and going across to play in Germany, did that at that time? Did you think, do you know what? I'd love to play in Europe, or were you happy to come back to the States? Did you have ambitions to play at that time when you first had that fresh taste of European football to go back?
I never had a serious thought about playing in Europe because I was by the time we started touring with the New York club. I already had set my sights on going to college and getting an architectural degree, and so and even in Europe, the game wasn't as professional, obviously, as it is now. So the salaries for playing were basically salaries, and I think most of the clubs that we played against in Europe. We didn't play against the top clubs, but most of the secondary clubs we played against in Europe, most of the players were part-timers. They had regular jobs and they played on the weekend. So it never really, was set in my mind that I could make a career of it. I certainly didn't think that I could make a career of it in the United States. And I liked New York. I liked America. I was accustomed to the culture there. So I didn't think about moving at all. All my friends, all my family were in New York. So it never occurred to me to move and to try to get into the pro ranks internationally.
Again, it's something I met when I actually played in Canada and down in Hershey in the States. A lot of players were part-time and they played seasonally. So they kind of in the off season they might have played major indoor soccer league, but most of them actually worked in the off season and then they picked up money, from let's just say April until September, to a lot of them were high school teachers. So that was a strange like phys ed teachers. When one interesting thing is because again you emigrated to the States. Did you have any language barriers there when you went? Because was your first language at home was German?
Yes. No, never really had any language problems. Not that I recognized as a child. We spoke German at home. We spoke, again, the community was mostly German. So, we spoke German in the streets with my friends. And I learned the language very quickly. I mean, I acclimated pretty quickly. I started school as soon as I got to New York. So, within a year or so, I was fluent enough to be able to communicate, in English. So that was never a problem. It never seemed to be a problem for me.
Again, so we hear all the time of like, people moving in and not being able to acclimatize, but obviously football helped you fit in. It helped you kind of find a group of friends, like-minded people to.
Absolutely. Yeah, It was the common element that connected most of us that played together, regardless of our nationality. We did have one or two Americans that played with us, but it was the common element that made New York feel like home. It was easier to acclimate, and uh, it was just a natural part of my experience of this new country.
Okay. Of the teams that you played against in your league, which I'll say this, I'll try to say it as politely as possible because it's a very Irish way to say it. Which of the ethnic groups did you most enjoy playing against in terms of just that you wanted to stick it to them?
I like playing against everyone. I had friends on every team. Basically, the Greek Americans, I love playing against them because they took the game so seriously, and they always brought large crowds with them. Those were the most competitive matches that we had. The Brooklyn Italians were very competitive. Um, and there were some teams, Lithuanians, New York Lithuanians, unfortunately, didn't have access to a lot of good players, but they were very aggressive. So we used to beat them quite handily. But I think every nationality, every year, there were different players coming in. So it was a great way to, meet a lot of new friends. And, the thing about the ethnic football clubs and leagues, we had a lot of social interaction, so after every match, the visiting club would join us at the clubhouse, and, we'd have dinner and drinks and get to know each other a little bit better. It was not just a sports club, but it was a social club in a sense where, a young man, could really develop their own skills and abilities.
And again, that's also, I think, I come from Ireland, so from our background is Gaelic games. So again, it's like every club has a clubhouse with a bar, and it kind of the socialization element is huge.
The
Now,
bar, bar being the most important element, of course.
is there any other? Okay, that's sorry. Okay, strike that away from me. Okay, it moving on the NASL, the North American Soccer League, lands bang in the North American landscape, and you go from you're playing in front of a few thousand to basically tens of thousands, and I don't think there will never be, even with the MLS right now, and I played A League, but there will never be another uh, buzz like there was with the NASL. And I mean, you signed for the only team, well, for me, any growing up, that people were like, oh, I know that team. If you mentioned the New York Cosmos, you're like, that's our guy. You were captain as well for, was it 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and a very successful captain as well. What was it like when the NASL arrived, and did you have any second thoughts about actually going to sign a pro contract?
Um, well, when the NASL arrived, that was initially the precursor to the NASL were two leagues that were started after the 1966 World Cup. In England, made such a big rating success in the U.S. It was the first time that matches were broadcast via satellite broadcasting, and it was the first opportunity that I had to see real international football. I had to go to Madison Square Garden with my father. I was about 17, 18 years old in 1966 to watch the World Cup final, West Germany and England. And it was at that point I saw Franz Beckenbauer and Bobby Moore, and I saw the level of play that I never really experienced before. Even in the German Hungarian Sport Club, we had a men's team, which was considered, a professional because they got a little stipend. But I had never seen football played at that level. So I think that match made me much more determined to improve as a player. You know, just from the standpoint of being able to compete. And the game itself didn't really grow until the NASL started. So in 1967, I think they started two leagues. I was drafted by the Atlanta franchise, but I was just entering college at the time, and so I decided not to participate. And then both of those leagues folded very quickly. By 1969, the leagues had folded, and that's when the NASL started in, I believe, 1970. And then in 1971 was the first time that I played with the New York Cosmos. I was still going to college, so I wasn't playing the whole season, but I played a few matches for them, schedule allowing, and I thought that it was a great progression from the German Hungarian first team, um, who I had initially signed a pro contract for. Even those ethnic clubs, as simple as they were, everybody signed. You signed either an amateur contract or a pro contract. You had to be registered with the U.S. Soccer Federation and through the U.S. Federation, registered with FIFA. And I had no qualms about signing a pro contract. It allowed me to make a little bit of money and add to my contribution to my college tuition, and paid for my bar bills. On the but there were never any qualms, because I just felt I was a part of the process. Nobody had an agent at the time. There were no negotiations. The German Hungarians basically told me what they were going to pay me to join the first team, and I thought that was fine. And then even with the Cosmos, when I started with them full time in '72, full time meaning I played the full season. We were on loan. I didn't sign with the Cosmos until 1975, when Pele arrived, and the Cosmos wanted to kind of own their own players and control the schedules of those players and the accessibility to those players. So it was just part of the deal.
Because you're there in '66 watching West Germany get cheated out of a World Cup win, another World Cup win. And Andrew will punish me for this one, due to an Armenian Azerbaijani linesman, but let's leave that there. You were supporting West Germany that day, I take it.
I was, yes,
Okay,
of course.
good. Okay. Right, Carson Taylor, again, that's a great prelude to the second half of the show. So you're watching Franz Beckenbauer playing, and of course, earlier on the tournament, Pele he got kicked out of it. And Bobby Moore, of course, captain West Ham star, and Jeff Hurst star, Martin Peters star, all from West Ham. They win the World Cup. You end up then, Bobby Moore's overplaying, Franz Beckenbauer's playing, and Pele. And of course, this is you as captain with, you see, Cruyff and Beckenbauer and Pele. What was it like when when these guys started to play in the NASL? And I mean, these are only just a few players that I could name. There's so many other superstars who were there playing from like Cellini and so on. Or was Cellini? No, I'm like saying the Italian player. All these superstars arriving in. What was it like to share the field with these guys?
Well, it was a bit unreal, as you can imagine. Initially, we had heard in late 1974 that Clive Toye, who was the general manager of the Cosmos, that he was negotiating with Georgie Best. And of course, that was a huge consideration among the players, that the possibility that a George Best could join us at the Cosmos. And but it was a bit unreal. And the George Best negotiations fell through. And then in '75, it was rumored that Clive was after Pele, and we all thought it was a bit of a joke initially. until he confirmed to the club that Pele had actually been signed. And then the first time I saw Pele, he came to a match, to attend a match at Randall's Island, which was the stadium that we were playing in at the time. And he landed in a helicopter. The Warners, Cosmos were owned by Warner Communications, a huge global communications conglomerate. And they brought him to the match in their helicopter. And when I still remember this moment, when he stepped off that helicopter, the reality actually hit. That, okay, that really is Pele, and he really is coming to the club, and he's going to be watching us play. And next week he's going to be joining us on the field. So it was somewhat unreal until I spent a few days with Pele, and he came to a couple of training sessions, and you realize that he's just like everybody else, and he was so open and so friendly and so considerate to all of the players. It didn't take long for that to be a normal part of our experience with the Cosmos. But initially, it was quite daunting. Everybody, wanted to pass the ball to Pele. After the first match, at the halftime, I believe of the first match, he asked all the players not to pass the ball to him if there were other open players to pass to, because he was getting somewhat overplayed and getting a little bit tired. But it took a while to acclimate, but once he was in the club, he was just like any other player.
And again, we're talking with like folks on Pele, but you look at this the line. I mean, these are superstars. These are top class American and foreign players. In hindsight, do you think that there should have been something? I mean, George Best ended up going to the States, but I think already by then he shouldn't have been. He was still young, but he was already, his body and obviously, of course, his alcoholism had taken over. But do you think in some ways that the NASL squandered these riches from the American stars who were there, including yourself, and then the foreign stars that came in? Do you think more could have been done at the time, or it just was a good lesson on how it could be done, or actually how it actually there was an appetite for football in America?
Well, I think Pele's arrival in '75 obviously attracted worldwide attention, because he did come out of retirement to play with the club. Um, so we felt that the arrival of Pele may put soccer on the professional sports map in the U.S. It wasn't so much the idea that we were going to continue importing some of the best international players that we could afford. It was really more about growing the game here and attracting media attention, and through the media attention, attracting fans, and maybe becoming a little bit more economically viable as a business opportunity. And Alan, I'm going to have to move inside. I've got some gardeners.
Okay. We'll Renner, that's great time for the moment. Now we're going to pause, or we're going to pause. We're actually going to go out to a short song while Werner moves his scenario. So we'll go to a song. We'll come back in the second half of the show, of course. Andrew Flint will be jumping in. Hopefully AK will join us as well. Of course, we're going to start speaking about the greatest movie of all time. But first, we're going to have a bit of a song that I think we're all going to, it's a bit of a pump-up song for us right now. We're going to enjoy. So we're back after this with some more Werner Roth. And of course, speaking about Escape to Victory. Song's coming up now. Not to worry, the song comes through now, so I'll edit this in post, so it'll be okay.
Yes.
If I just find it, and it'll give us just a minute then to settle. And now I'm trying to find the song. Okay, here we go. Bye.